Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. The O-Dog, we don't know where the O-Dog is. The O-Dog's off, though. He's not here. I'm sure he'll return on Monday.
Yeah.
Sure he will. I mean, it's never an obvious answer one way or the other, but I'm sure we'll hear from him again on Monday. But that means, we got a lot of heavy lifting here today. And we got Steve Phillips coming up in an hour. We got our boy Jonas, who was down at Leaf practice earlier today. And Keith Pelley coming up here in a moment, the new president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. And we were saying to start last hour, Noodles, it's been a while since we had, the president and CEO of MLSE on the show.
Yeah.
Wiki would call into college radio stations and do hits, and then when he left, it was basically out of sight, out of mind for whoever was holding this position. And maybe that's going to change with Keith in charge.
That'd be nice. I mean, depends on what his style is. If he wants to be behind the scenes or if he wants to be very visible, very noticed. He's a well-known guy in this city. It's not like, he's just come in out of nowhere. I mean, he has a large and a deep history and rooted history in this city. So I would love for him to be visible and be talking to everybody and be out in the public and be, a great steward for the MLSE brand. Because,
absolutely.
It's awesome.
And it's a big one, right? I mean, the beauty of when, you have a turnover like this, everything kind of comes out in terms of how much they own, how much it's worth, the valuation. And this is a monster operation.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've read it. I've read it. Largely considered one of the, top 10 or 12 sports empires around the world. In terms of them owning NHL, NBA, the stadiums they own, Toronto FC, obviously the Argos, the Marlies. They own so many different teams, so much property, and it's clearly the largest sporting operation in this country, but it truly is one of the larger ones, not only in North America, but around the world. And it's a big job. It's a job where, again, they've been very successful, but if you're a fan of any of these teams, you're not thinking about the bottom line. You're not thinking about real estate. You're thinking, okay, are my teams going to win? What's going to happen when I go to the park or when I go to the stadium or the arena? And it's going to be an interesting transition. It really will be, because the Leafs are going to the playoffs. The Raptors are not. Toronto FC is just getting going. The Argos are in their offseason. We'll see where it goes. But we're excited to find out some of those answers. Let's bring them in here now. The new president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. Here's Keith Pelley. How you doing, Keith?
Hey, I'm good, gents. You?
Doing very well.
Is that Bryan?
Yeah, this is Bryan, yes.
Hey, Bryan.
How are you, man? Good. Welcome home. This
really
must be exciting for you.
TSN 1050 Overdrive. This is the first time I've ever been on it. How exciting is that? When did you guys?
It's exciting for us.
I hear it's doing really well. So tell me more about it.
How long
you
want
have you guys
us?
Been doing this?
You're going to interview us? Yeah, we've been doing it for a while. We've been in the afternoons now for 8 years. So I don't know if you're going to feel that way in a month, Keith. We'll see.
All right, well, 8 years. 8 years. See, I've been out of the country for almost 9.
Right.
So so I apologize profusely that I don't listen to you on a daily basis. But I'll start. I can tell you right now, Steve Simmons cooks with you. I talked to Steve Simmons earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
He cooks dinner listening to you guys every night.
Well, there we go.
We appreciate that. We get emails from Steve generally correcting us on things. So, that's good to have in our corner. And we appreciate that has been happening, and I'm sure will continue. Like you said, you've been out of the country, for quite some time, but you're back home. You're a Toronto guy. You got a rich history in this industry, obviously, but also, among heavy hitters in the city. What's it like to come home and take over a gig with such a significant title like this, the president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment?
Oh, guys, it's a huge privilege. It's a huge honor. It's humbling. MLSE is one of the most successful, influential organizations in the world, in the sports and the entertainment industry. In operating in one of the best markets in the world, and that's my hometown. Mm-hmm. I'm so passionate about all the sports, but I'm passionate about Toronto. I'm passionate about Canada. I tell people I've been an ambassador for the country and for the city the last 9 years as I've traveled to 42 different countries in the golf business. And, people always ask me, where are you from in America? And I said, well, I've been to America, but I'm not American. I'm a proud Canadian, and to have the opportunity to run MLSE it's an honor, but I also think it's a huge responsibility. It is something that can impact the community, impact the country. There's no better example than the upcoming 2026 World Cup. It's guys, it's been a whirlwind. This is like day number 5. I've had a smile on my face for the first 5 days. And it's, I'm buzzing with anticipation to get stuck in.
Well, as you mentioned, you've been in Europe, you've been around the world, for almost a decade. I'm curious, as a Torontonian, as a Canadian, and someone that was heavily involved in sports and sports media and, the sporting world throughout your career, and obviously that continued when you're in Europe. I'm curious if you picked up on anything over there, or if there's anything that you can take from your experience in Europe and the way that they go about running business and operating in the sports world, and possibly apply it to Toronto and on a greater landscape, Canada in general.
Well, I think what I've learned is having traveled the world and seeing different sports and how they affect the communities, whether it be hurling in Ireland, which transforms that entire country, supported by an icon by the name of J.P. McManus. Whether it is what is how I've seen and experienced the importance of football in England and France. I think, but the biggest thing is sports is now becoming more global, and all sports are. And we've obviously seeing that right now in what is happening in the world of golf, and I think that will end eventually, and I think it'll end sooner rather than later, and I think it'll end with more global product. And I think every sport and every team now, through the access of social, through the access of the different platforms, have an ability to create a more global brand. And that's what we want to do here as well. We will have a very strong international strategy. If you look at what's happened with the National Football League, the NHL going, the Leafs playing in Sweden last year, you look at Major League Baseball now playing in London. Everybody wants to be global, and we have global partners, and they want globality. So there will definitely be an international department here that will be robust in its nature to extend these brands, these incredible brands of TFC, of the Raptors, and of the Leafs internationally.
Ricky Pelley, and I led you into that question, but there's a guy driving down the Parkway on the 401 right now saying, okay, how does that affect me going to see the Leafs play or the Raptors winning? What do they care about London and Singapore and Hong Kong and Japan? Like, how do you marry this vision that you just laid out with your core audience, your local audience, and that would, of course, be here in Toronto?
Yeah, well, you asked me the question about global. You're right.
Yeah, of course.
And that would be one facet of our strategy. That would be one component of it. At the end of the day, what I have learned through the last 2 or 3 months in talking to ownership and talking to Larry and Edward and Mirko, that they're aligned on winning, and they're aligned on winning at every level, winning on the court, off the court, on the ice, off the ice, and on the field, off the field. And part of that is the impact that MLSE can have in the community. And so what I would say as a perfect example is the commitment of $350 million to the venue reimagination of Scotiabank Arena, and how we can utilize that to make it a stronger experience for the consumer. In the world past COVID, sports and entertainment has galvanized communities and has changed the way that people actually live their lives and experiences, whether it be through music, and we certainly have a wonderful partnership with Live Nation, and I had just an incredible experience last night at the Bad Bunny concert. I'm going to go again to Kane Brown tonight for another experience, and it rallies people together. And similar does that with sport, and winning is obviously at the core of that. And so that's definitely the focus of ownership. There's definitely alignment and ownership and winning in all aspects of both on the ice and off the ice. Like as I said, just taking that one example of the World Cup, I had the greatest privilege of running the Ryder Cup in France, and then running the Ryder Cup in Rome. France, it brought over a value, international study brought over an impact value of £250 million back in 2018 for 3 days of competition. We will not be focusing on the World Cup on the side of our desk. We want to bring millions and millions of value and exposure to our city, to our country, and that allows every Canadian to be proud of it. But I can tell you one thing: at the core of everything and every decision we make will be the consumer, and I've said that over the last 8 or 9 months, as we have been through a turbulent time in the world of golf. I said, let's bring it right back to the consumer. And so the consumer is always at the forefront of our thinking, and that's what it will be at MLSE.
Keith, I read a story today about you when you first got to Scotiabank. You brought a picture of your late father, and it brought back memories of you going to games and you'd been in the building with him and watched the Leafs as a kid, that type of stuff. And I wanted to basically ask, what is going to be your style as far as hands-on? Obviously, the teams that you're in charge of, or the organizations you're in charge of, are at different spots. So the Raptors, as opposed to the Leafs, and where TFC's at. So do you have to establish relationships with everybody, and is it going to take a little bit of time to settle in?
Well, there's no question that the fire hose is firmly entrenched at this particular time as I learn all aspects of the business. And it is, there are so many different verticals, but those verticals will all be horizontally integrated. And what I mean by that is the Leafs and the Raptors and TFC and the Argos and our live business will all work very, very closely together, even more so than they do now. And we had a town hall yesterday at Real Sport, and Masai was there, Brendan was there, Bill Manning was there, Pinball was there, Jason Hernandez, Bobby Webster. It's that, I definitely will have a hands-on approach, but at the same time, leadership is about having the right people in the right position and empowering them. That's what leadership is, and I'm fortunate to be having this incredible privilege, and as I said, it's not just a privilege; it's a responsibility, and it's a responsibility to the city of Toronto, and it's a responsibility to the country based on some of the brands that we operate. So, I really am. I can't tell you how excited I am about this opportunity. I said to Edward Rogers when I left Rogers Media almost 9 years ago, I said the only reason I would ever come back to Toronto is to run an NFL team in Toronto, which obviously doesn't exist, or the CEO of MLSE. And when Larry and Edward and Mirko were aligned on me coming in, it was an easy decision for the reasons I told you. The passion for the sport, the passion for the music, the passion for the city, and perhaps the biggest of all, just the passion for the business. And I feel like I feel one of the most fortunate men in the country right now. And in terms of my father, it's kind of you to bring it up. Yes, my dad and I used to go up the escalator to the Blues once or twice a year. I used to wear my skates in the watching Hockey Night in Canada when I was an 8-year-old. You know how you'd put your skates on and you'd watch the game, and we all did it. My dad unfortunately is not with us, but as soon as I took this job, I took a picture out and I put it in my wallet. Unfortunately, my wallet is not big enough, so I had to cut my mom out of the picture. But God bless her, she was a curling fan, and I'm a curling fan too. But so my dad will attend every game, and he so
that's great.
It's a key part of why I did this is my father and the impact he had on my life.
We're chatting with Keith Pelley, the new president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. And you piqued my interest with one of your comments there, Keith, and I'm sure I'm not alone on this. You mentioned you come over here for two roles, and that would be one would be the one you're currently in. The other would be if there was an NFL team here, and there's not. And I think a lot of people are always attaching MLSE with maybe the pursuit of other sports or other teams, because in town you've got basically everyone outside of the Jays, yet Rogers obviously owns them. Is that a part of your plan, is to try and get an NFL team here, to get MLSE involved internationally, like you said earlier, maybe get into Europe and get a football club over there? Like where do you go in terms of growing this empire?
Well, what I will say is this is day number 5,
right? And
we have absolutely spectacular people in place, and I'm just learning all aspects of this business right now. I can tell you the rules and regulations of the National Football League, as you know, would prohibit an entity ever owning a team. It has to be an individual that is the majority holder. So that even if that was a strategy, and I've not discussed that with any of the 3 owners, and certainly wasn't part of the process that we went through. What we have right now is we have I've got to learn the assets that we currently have. We have to develop them at the highest level we possibly can, and my aspirational goal is to simply leave the organization in a stronger shape, and whatever that means. I'm not sure exactly what that means at this particular time in terms of expansion, but certainly leave it in a better situation, have a stronger impact on the community in every possible way, and win as much, and try to win as much as we possibly can. Definitely winning off the ice, off the court, off the field, and obviously wanting to win on the field, on the pitch, and on the court and on the ice as well. So I think it's a little premature for me to talk about what the aspirational goals long-term of expansion would be.
Okay. In terms of, the word autonomy, I'm sure you're going to hear that a lot, or it's going to be posed to you many different times over the next, couple of weeks, if not couple of months, because obviously there's a board ahead of you, above you, like you mentioned, Larry Tannenbaum and, the heads of Rogers and Bell. But when it comes to the sports teams and the executives, Shanahan, Ujiri, Manning, et cetera, do you have autonomy over hiring, firing, personnel practices? Where does that stand?
Well, I never look at it. I never look at it as autonomy, because I think that I look at it as we're all working together to try to actually win championships, and that's what we're going to do. I'll work very closely with ownership. I'll work very closely with the with Brendan and Masai. Masai has transformed the sport in our not only in our city, in our country. If you take a look at what he has accomplished with everything from creating a world-class practice facility in the Oval Stadium,
OVO, yep.
OVO that I was out to see last week. Bringing the NBA All-Star here, creating a minor league franchise in 905, in bringing Drake as part of it, and in hiring one of the brightest minds in basketball and Bobby Webster, and of course bringing a championship to the city with a brand like We the North that went all the way to England, where my boy still has a flag the size of Mount Rushmore in his bedroom. So, we're in a rebuilding mode, and we'll rebuild that team. And it's got a lot of bright young stars, and I'm really excited about that. Shanahan is one of the greatest competitors that our sport has ever seen, and we are right now heading to the playoffs, and my glass is not even half. It's full, and I'm so excited to get that underway. Under Bill, bringing in John Herdman and has certainly revitalized that franchise, and there's no question that pinball has done a great job with the Argo. So I'm here to help. I've said that to them. I said, how can I help, guys? How can I help us win? How can I help us be better? And as I said, it was phenomenal to have all of them in front of all the staff yesterday. And the relationship that they've developed. I'm excited about it. So the way that I look at it is this is nobody, and but I feel like this way. Anyone that's ever worked with me, nobody works for me; they work with me, and I look forward to working with all the leaders that we have here at MLSE.
With Keith Pelley, you mentioned before you went to Europe, you were obviously running Rogers Media, and you're very familiar. You got a long, rich history in Canadian broadcasting, TSN, Rogers, etc. I'm curious, now that you're in this role, where you see sports broadcasting going, and how Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment might factor into that. If you're going to have a voice in that, if you have a vision, it's a lot more modern today, as you would know, than it was even 9 or 10 years ago. Things are changing rapidly in this industry. Where do you stand on that now, considering the role you're in here with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment?
Well, I think I've been at the right place at the right time, and had a lot of great people to have worked with, and I've had some wonderful opportunities, and those included the incredible chance to be the president of TSN, to work with Rogers Media, to run Canada's Olympic Consortium in Vancouver, which I think was the team that we assembled was phenomenal. Guys, I think I would answer that question the same as I'd answer that question to every business. If every business is not looking to modify their business, if every business is not looking to the future and understanding that change is there, if every business is not understanding the power of how platforms and new entrances into communication is changing your business, then you're going to fall behind. And there are a plethora of examples of businesses that haven't. We will not fall behind. We will be leaders in all aspects of those of content development, of creativity, of innovation. There will definitely be an innovative team and an innovative division at MLSE. You have to in this day and age constantly be adapting, constantly be changing your business, or you'll fall behind, and we will not fall behind.
Well, it sounds like you got a concert to get to. How was Bad Bunny? You said you liked it. I didn't picture you there, Keith.
What? I can tell you guys that I'm not sure wearing the suit was the way to go.
Yeah, you might stand out a bit.
Yeah,
I was down on the floor, and I was the only person in a suit, and I went, oh my gosh! I'm living really close to Scotiabank. How quick can I run home and get on a hoodie?
Yeah.
So tonight I went down to the Raptors or down to the store. I bought a Raptors hoodie, and I bought a Leafs sweatshirt, and I'm going to go home and change and be properly dressed for Kane Brown.
There you go.
Bad Bunny was unbelievable. And our relationship with Live Nation and our music business and that business, I'll just leave you this one, which I didn't even know about, but met the guys from Live Nation, last night, and there used to be 30 concerts. I think it was 30 just 2 years ago at Budweiser stage. This year there'll be 80. That comes right back to what I'm saying. The world is changing because people aren't looking right away at going and buying a house and that's their priority. They're now looking at experiences, and we have to react to that. And we are very fortunate to be in the business where we can give incredible experiences in the concert business, and in the sports business. And guys, listen, it's day 5, but I can't tell you how energized and I'm excited about it. And the people that I've met here have just been incredible. Like, I've had a smile on my face all week, and I think it will stay as long as I'm here at MLSE.
Well, make sure you expense those hoodies, right? That's rule number 1. Someone else has got to pay for that. And, welcome home. Obviously, congrats on getting such a prestigious gig. And hopefully we get a chance to do this again down the road. Thank you, Keith.
Hey, listen, I look forward now to listening to the TSN 1050 OverDrive.
Yes, lock it in.
Yeah.
Lock it in. You can find us everywhere.
I could have said that was one of the key priorities, to have that opportunity to listen to you guys. So
there you go.
I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you for the privilege of coming on your show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. There's Keith Pelley, the new president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, coming home, Toronto boy. And it's a big gig. It's a big gig.
It is huge. And, you're only 5 days in, but he's, like you say, you're drinking through a water hose or a fire hose because you're just trying to get settled in. And, you got the Leafs going to the playoffs. You got a bunch of things. And guaranteed you've got meetings and upon meetings with trying to get familiar with people. I would love to see a priority list of who he has to get to right away. And maybe you could push a few teams to the side if they're not playing, or, maybe can wait a little bit. But, man, oh, man, it's a busy job for him.
Yeah, for sure. And he brings up the music side of it, which we don't ever get into, but it's a very, very good point because of, how often Scotiabank is hosting events and BMO Field is hosting events. And, there's, if the Leafs and Raptors aren't playing, there's a concert there. That's a huge part of the way that they operate. And, he's from Toronto. He's familiar with it. I think the comparing and contrasting will be Pelley and Lewicki. But Lewicki wasn't from here, and you could tell that when he got here, right? Yeah. Like, he was brash, he was aggressive. Remember, he's like, we're taking down the pictures and all that. And people are like, I beg your pardon, you're not doing that. This isn't an expansion team. We've been around for a while. And I understood his reasoning. He was all about forward thinking, and it's a new era, and we're going to be obsessed with winning and forget the past. But he had a couple of hiccups, from a PR standpoint, because he was so new to the market and he was unfamiliar with Toronto and Canada at large, where that's not going to be the case with Keith Pelley. Keith knows the ins and outs of Toronto, of Bell, of Rogers, of Larry Tannenbaum, the heavy hitters in the city.
He knows everything about it. Yeah, exactly. So. He knows all the heavy hitters. But you're right, he didn't. Wasn't it Lewicki that just came in and said the parade route is planned? All of that. Man. Like, he was shooting from the hip.
Yes.
Big dreamer, but he dreamed big, and he did. They did have a
accomplished.
Parade.
Toronto C, they won MLS Cup. The Raptors won.
But Pelley's been around this market enough to know, how to handle it as well. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's and again, he's thinking internationally. He's like, that's interesting. They're gonna have an international wing, and it's about branding around the world. And I asked him that because I think that's something a lot of people would be curious about. But again, if you're in Toronto, you're like, okay, how does that help in terms of getting this thing cooking and moving in the right direction? But resources have never been an issue for MLSE, right? Like, the Leafs spend to the cap. The Raptors have always spent money. Toronto FC has always spent a lot of money. So it's not as if the Argos spend money. They just gave Chad Kelly a boatload of cash. They're bringing the World Cup here. There's MLSE is so intertwined with basically everything that happens in this city, and we'll see where Keith takes it. He's not going to give us every answer. He doesn't have every answer. Like you said, he's been here for 5 days. He's got to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
But we appreciate him doing that. So we got Steve Phillips coming up in about a half an hour. The Jays winning today, spoiling opening day at Yankee Stadium. They get past the Yankees 3-0. They're 4-4 now, right? The bats weren't necessarily rocking, but they're 4-4. So Phillips on that and more. Shohei Ohtani hit a home run. You see the woman that caught the ball now is starting to freak out about what she got in return for handing the ball back over. We'll tell you about that. And Jonas Siegel, who was at leave practice earlier today. Jonas coming up in about an hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Out in Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beers. Always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight, where you got Oilers Avalanche tonight, Leafs Habs tomorrow night. The Jays are down at Yankee Stadium. They picked up a win today. There's an earthquake down in the New York area.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't see that? Yeah,
I didn't see that at
4.8 on the Richter scale, I believe. Like, it was all the way in Philly. They felt it in New York.
Wow.
I haven't seen any, follow-ups in terms of damage or anything like that. But you don't get that much, right? On the East Coast, we're not too used to earthquakes.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. I mean,
that's a California thing.
Exactly, it is. Live updates. Yeah, it rattles New York, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Wow. So, I mean, I'm flying down there, I think, next weekend. You never, it's always scary going to big cities, although we live in a big city.
Yeah.
Literally, we live in I joke sometimes, I'm heading to, the big city. You're heading to L.A. or you're heading to New York, and you're like, well, Toronto has, 6 million people, technically, in the GTA and surrounding type of thing. It's a massive city, so...
Yeah, so look out, man. I wouldn't expect any carryover or anything when you're down there. But, I saw a number of people tweeting about it. Steve Phillips, I think, is at the MLB Network, which I want to say is, I think it's in, the Chelsea area of Manhattan. Okay. And he was in the building, and he's like, things are rattling. It's all good. You give him live updates during an earthquake. Yeah, so, I guess there you go up on TSN 2. They were doing BP leading into the game because the game started at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And, Yankee Stadium, there was a bit of a rumble. So It didn't affect the game. The game started on time. And, again, the Jays won earlier today. And Kikuchi got the better of Stroman. Both of them actually pitched really, really well. But the Jays end up pulling off a 3-0 win. And the Shohei Ohtani story, I'm sure you've seen it online, where he hit a home run the other day. And it was his first as a Dodger. And it was at Dodger Stadium, and I guess the Dodgers, the security, found the woman and did what they could to get the ball back, which happens, right? Whenever you see, a 3,000th hit, a 500th home run, a first home run, whatever it is, if it's a monumental home run, the team will try to retrieve the ball, and they want to get it either to the player or to the Hall of Fame or whatever it is. And it's pretty serious real estate. If you have access to that ball, we've had these conversations before where guys are like, I'm holding out, man. I'm not handing this ball to anybody unless you pay me a lot of money.
Wasn't it Aaron Judge's, the guy who caught Judge's
when
ball?
When he hit 62 and he passed Maris. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that guy turned down $3 million or something like that. And then put it to auction, and he got $80,000. It was some ridiculous fall off. We got to find that story because I have a recollection of someone offering him, some auction company or sport paraphernalia company that was willing to give him $3 million, and he turned it down and said, "No, I want to launch a lottery for this or an auction." Yeah. And he ended up having to settle on way less money. Way less money than what he was offered.
That's funny.
But so Shohei's home run, a woman caught it, and I guess they gave her a hat, a bat, and a couple of gloves or something.
What are they, in Oakland or what?
Yeah, exactly. It was an Oakland A's type of,
let's find a bottle of wine here in the cooler down. Yeah, literally, just nonsense. You should have, hook her up with something.
Right. Right. And I guess she initially was cool with that and thought, wow, this is amazing. And what I'm gathering is someone eventually got to her and was like, are you nuts? What are you doing accepting that deal? Like, you cannot accept that deal. You got to hold out for way more. You know, and especially with where Ohtani is right now, not exactly in the best light, you know, in terms of good graces and all that. You hold out for dear life, because it may be a big moment for him where he's like, hey, I gave $4.5 to my interpreter. I'll give you $1 million for that ball.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or whatever it's going to be, cash or a better experience. Because I don't think she got anything. Like, basically nothing out of this. And yet the ball's in the possession now of Shohei Ohtani. So you can't go back on it.
No, but I'm reading, like it said, that the ball at an auction house might have been worth about $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she got 2 hats, but at least they were signed by Ohtani.
Still,
like,
man, you need more than that.
That's tough.
You need
like,
more than that.
Would you double down on the hat and be like, hey, I got a cousin that's a big fan, or, you know, like, how do you land on 2 hats? Like, you know,
Did they offer 1 and she said, no, I need 3, and they settled on 2?
Yeah, like, just give me a little extra there. Like, that is so weird. But
yeah. But I guess if you're not familiar with it, right? Like, I don't know the woman's background. I don't know. And in the moment, you probably get caught off guard because there's security right on you. Like, hey, can we have that ball? Can we have that ball?
Right.
And, you know, it might be a little bit nerve-wracking, but that's where you got to take a step back. You got to know the history here and say, absolutely not. Like, I'm not giving anything unless there's cash involved. I want to be on the field with Shohei.
I could see you. Like, you're like Kramer. Remember was the kid wouldn't give was it the ball back, or what remember
that
Kramer
was the signed picture, the Paul O'Neill, the Yankee picture, I think.
And he's like, Paul O'Neill has to hit 2 home runs.
Yeah.
Like, not just 1, 2.
Right.
And Kramer promises it like that. I could see you cutting a deal with, like,
absolutely.
Like, what do? You get something like that. Like, what if you're in the stands and Matthews scores 70 and the puck ends up, like, somebody shoots it out of the net, you know, pissed off, shoots it over the glass, and you catch it.
I'm holding out for the goods, man.
You're like, run for the exit, say, I'll talk to you in 1 week when I start to take a look at my options.
Yes, I want a full portfolio in front of me. Options in terms of money, experiences. I want my kids on the bench for a preseason game. Like, there'd be a lot of different demands that would come for that.
That would be, you could probably hold out for some pretty good stuff. But you're right.
You could.
There might be a line drawn. You know,
think about how much the team would hate, especially me, because they know me. They'd be like, are you kidding me, dude? I'd have to give the puck away. I'd have to give it to him. I would. But I might grab it and give it to someone I know and be like, you hold that and I will represent you, because I can't be the face of this transaction, because it'll be ridiculous. But
wouldn't that be hilarious?
Imagine I catch the 70 puck. That would be unbelievable.
And you hand it off to somebody, though, so that you can negotiate through them. And then, but they would read through it. You have to do once a week for a year.
Right, you got to go OverDrive once a week at 5 o'clock every
Friday. The Tom Brady call in, or the Aaron Rodgers, like that type of stuff. That would be hilarious.
That would be good. That's probably what I would do is, all right, let's lay it out here. How are we going to work this out? In studio, we want to have the show down there in the room every once in a while.
36 guest appearances.
Yes.
On
and you can have the puck back. JP, you have a Aaron Judge home run ball update. What ended up happening there?
So it didn't go as low as you thought it was. It did sell at auction for $1.5 million. But he was offered, it was a 36-year-old man that was offered $3 million up front.
Wow.
For the ball before auction, and he declined and wanted to sell it.
So he gambled on an auction price being higher than $3 million and a cent, and he basically lit 1.5 up in flames.
Ended up taking about half in terms of auction, and then who knows how much the auctioneer takes in percentage.
Yeah, the auction
exactly.
1.5 is what they sell it for.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like Sotheby's or whatever. Like
they might take 20%. They might take 10%. I don't know what they would take it, because I haven't been involved in those auctions, but they're not doing it for free.
That's got to feel so stupid. You know, like if you had $3 million in front of you and you decided to be a hero, no thanks.
Yeah. That was a check for $3 million, not having to give a percentage to a broker or anything like that.
No middleman there. Yeah, none whatsoever. All right, Steve Phillips in about 20 minutes on the Jays' start to the season, the Shohei Ohtani story. We'll tell you about what happened in France. They were unveiling the new Aquatics Centre, and they put, well, I mean, they probably weren't thinking we're about to jam someone up, but someone got jammed up. We'll tell you about what happened there as they're preparing for the summer games. It's a wild scene. Phillips coming up. Jonah's coming up. Best bet still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Steve Phillips in about 15 minutes. We're playing some weird music, man. We got to have a chat with Doogie. He was doing this yesterday. I don't know what he thinks he's operating here, but the music is really throwing me off, man.
This is it. Is this Huey Lewis in the news? I
don't know, but like Doogie's 21 years old. Like,
yeah, they would have no idea.
Modern music, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah. Doogie is going into the archives here, and it's really throwing me off here. So, anyway, it's a mail-in Friday, and
I got to defend myself, though.
What's that?
I was told I got to defend myself. Apparently, you guys were really enjoying yourself making fun of my haircuts or something yesterday. I don't know. Somebody sent me a note saying that you guys were talking about my hair. And
I don't remember the context. Like, I feel like we were goofing on Strutty, and then he may have thrown a grenade at you, and then we probably were taking a shot at either the color or what's going on there. I don't know. I mean, do we have an update? It's like U&O, right? O's losing weight. Where are you at? Where are we going with your salad here these days?
I don't know. I mean, I told you guys about 6 months ago, I got it cut and I dyed the sides and I didn't like it. It was weird. I'm naturally going a little bit gray on the side.
Yeah.
So I'm just letting it
Just let it go,
live
man.
Its life.
Salt and pepper that thing. I think that's a lifestyle choice.
I will be salt and pepper very soon. I feel like probably a year from now. I just don't know how the transition's going to go. You know,
I don't know either. I don't know. I mean,
it's uncharted territory.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. You're going to look like Chevy Chase, I think. You'll be Chevy by the end of the year.
It might be, but I'm done in July. We get the summers off or whatever. So I'm going to come back in September. That's where it'll be probably the most noticeable.
Okay.
Because if you haven't seen me for 2 months, all of a sudden you're like, okay, that guy's got gray hair now.
All right.
I think that's what's going to happen.
I look forward to that. Yeah. No, I don't think you need to defend anything. I don't remember what we were saying. I don't dispute that we were chirping you. Of course we were.
Well, yeah.
And Strutty was on.
Target. Strutty's an easy target too, though. He you know what he does? He takes shots out because he knows they're coming back at him, so he's just firing away.
Yes, exactly. He's got a lot of bullets in the chamber, right? He's ready to counterattack.
Yeah, love it.
So, as we know, the Paris Games are rapidly approaching. I mean, the Olympics will be here before you know it. We're only a couple months away. And, they're unveiling a bunch of the different facilities that they've invested in and that, they're obviously going to be utilizing come the Olympic Games. And it's a massive story over there. And it's, a lot about civic pride, et cetera. We had that obviously in Vancouver in 2010, and we had it in Calgary, and we've our history with the Olympic Games, Montreal in '76.
Yeah.
So it's a big story, and they're excited over there, and they want the whole world to be paying attention. Hey, you're going to be in Paris, and this is what you're coming to see.
Yeah.
So the Aquatics Centre, which is really between that and the track, obviously, is kind of the home of the Olympic Games. Look at this diver. He bites on the board there.
Oh, it's that's tough too.
Yeah. So his name is Alexis Jandard. He's obviously, an Olympian and a very accomplished Olympian.
Yes.
I believe he was a silver medalist 4 years ago. Or he was a silver medalist in the 2022 World Aquatics Championship. So this guy is world renowned, has a real chance to medal. And Macron was there, right? The president of France was in attendance for this unveiling.
That's Chris. That's like a SNL skit.
Yeah,
Chris Farley falling off one of them. Obviously it's an accident. Not that he could do, but that's tough.
It's really tough because of the gear he's in too. Is what really is crushing. Because if you blow a wheel skiing down a hill, whatever, this guy's in a Speedo, and look at his legs are in the air. He bites it off the side and then falls overboard into the pool. And this was supposed to be a synchronized dive. He's lucky to blow his Achilles out.
I know that a lot of times if you're on a trampoline and you double bounce, bad things can happen. That looked like he double bounced, and
sounds like he's all good. I guess he was speaking with the media after, and he just said, I want to reassure right away, no problem, everything's fine. I didn't hurt myself. And he kind of joked. He said, I've broken boards before, but the board has never broken me. And what are you going to do? It's better it happens now as opposed to once you get to the Olympic Games, right? The whole world is watching. But now you've gone viral. Like you're the diver from France who blew a wheel on the board when you were unveiling the Aquatics Centre to the world, and Macron is right there.
Yeah, it'll be a meme for sure. Like if something's struggling, all of a sudden you'll see that guy will be a meme, or there'll be a team attached to that or something like that. It's going to live forever.
Absolutely, it's too good. Like it's just a great visual, and the fact that the guy's totally fine and not injured, then you can laugh about it, and that's absolutely not going to go anywhere anytime soon. All right, Steve Phillips coming up. Jonas Siegel, our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. We'll look ahead to a busy weekend for the Leafs and the Jays. The Raptors in action as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.